on, all you beautiful people out there? I am Snickers. This is Meat Snack. This is the Snick Snack Sports, bringing you the Mansfield Penn State Fantasy Football League podcast. Nate, we're enemies today.
That's right. This week, we're no longer friends for the next 7 days or 4 days or however long it is. We're mortal enemies. I'll be taking you down. Your week at running back this week, I'm feeling very encouraged.
That may be true, but I think my team has a lot of spunk. They have a lot of fight in them. We're going to gnaw some ankles, and we're going to come out with the wins this week.
We will have to see about that. But it's been a great week for everybody. There's the tie to talk about and the potential Candyland matchup potentially this weekend between me and Nick Adams. We have some news to tell you about. We have some recaps. We have Kenny Royer on the show today to talk about his comeback team. So why don't we get into it with some weekly recap? How was this weekend for you, Nick?
Yeah, it was a pretty good weekend. I did get out with the L going up against first place team, Kyle, this week here. But yeah, let's look at the week in review.
Yeah, let's take a look at the standings. We see that Kyle Fufu Cuddly Poops is on top. He's having a dominant season this year. Can anyone beat him? We don't know. The Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack continues to pay off for him. Now, we have a number of 3-1 teams. We have Matt, we have Kyler, we have Kenny, who's been a bit of a resurgent team. Then we have a lot of mid-tier teams, and then the All of Man, Ducky, breaking out the bottom, although this week was a heartbreaker, as you saw.
It was, absolutely. We'll see if Ducky can get his first win this week against another one-win team.
Absolutely. We can see he still has his bottom of the barrel in terms of points scored. Him and John, basically the only ones in the 300s. I guess Katie's there. She's overperforming herself a little bit. Now, these standings are going to get shaken up when me and mid-tier Nick presumably lose our ties over our tiebreaker matchup. And that'll be a huge swing because 1 and 3 feels very low for a team that I think is in 4th place in points scored. But that's how Shane has slightly more points than me, and he is at 1 and 3. So
you're having a tough schedule.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but I think me and Shane are both headed for a rebound. But let's get into the matchups here. My matchup, of course, was the tie, 103.9 to 103.9. For those who were watching Monday Night Football, it was a tense one. What needed to happen was going into tonight, the only player on the board was Jeff Wilson, who needed to get 13.5 points to get me the victory. He was projected to get exactly 13.5. He got 13.4, but what killed me was that 3 minutes into the game, he has 9 points. Just scored a touchdown on a 30-yard run, and I'm ecstatic. Over the next 2 quarters, he's slowly there, but he has 12.5 points after 3 quarters. All he needs is 10 more yards. Halfway through the 4th quarter, he actually gets it. He has exactly 10 more yards. The next drive, he loses a yard, and I'm down 0.1 points. I don't even know if they're going to get another drive. Matt Stafford fumbles the ball. He all of a sudden, there's like a minute and a half left on the clock. They just have a little bit too much time. They have to run one more drive. He gets the ball 3 times and manages to score 1 yard on those 3 to give me the tie.
Yeah, that's rough. You know what to say. That hurts.
It hurts. And there was some bad starts and decisions. Rashad Bateman scored 3.2. I think I had Tyler Lockett, Chris Godwin, Josh Reynolds all outscored him. Raheem Mostert all could have outperformed that. And so, I mean, Tom Brady did go off on Nick's bench. He did have Tyler Higbee, which would have outperformed. Oh, well, Travis Kelce actually was the right choice there.
He would have outperformed J.K. Dobbins on his flex, though.
That's true. I mean, no one's making that choice. No, J.K. got 20 points, actually. So he had a good week. Carson Wentz just kind of spoiled it for him. Why don't we get into the, I guess to preview, we're thinking about playing Candyland for those who saw maybe this weekend. We'll have to determine exactly the time. Snickers might be there to officiate. But that will hopefully clear that all up.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Now let's talk about this matchup here, Nick.
Yeah, it was Kenny's third win of the season against Shane Roy's third loss of the season. It was the classic matchup of Geno Smith against Kirk Cousins. Obviously, they're both pretty highly touted quarterbacks at this point of the year. Shane's running backs came through pretty well, and Kenny's Jamal Adams, Mike Williams, and Derrick Henry were looking pretty good. Let's see. Did anyone really make any mistakes? Obviously, Jalen Waddle came out of the game. 1-2 came out of the game a little bit, so it's hard to guess when those things are going to happen. But I love when these guys are playing with basically backup caliber quarterbacks, and Shane knows always one to pick up some of those players.
He got it right this time. So
He did. 77% completion rate is 3 points higher than the NFL record. So we'll see if he can keep it up throughout the season.
yeah, a lot of good start to decisions here. George Pickens is looking hot down there on Kenny's bench. He made a trade with Katie. We'll talk about a little later. See if he can explain his actions. I'm a little bit on Katie's side on that one, but Kenny's team is hot right now. And then we have your matchup here, Nick, between you and Kyle. Why don't you tell us what happened?
Yeah, no, it was a great matchup. Honestly, we were going back and forth. I was picked to win for a decent amount of time. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor getting injured in the fourth quarter hurt a lot. Khalil Herbert only scoring 10 points, but Mike Evans came back big Sunday Night Football with a bunch of touchdowns. Put me 7 points in the lead going into Monday Night Football, where all Kyle had was the 49ers defense. I just needed them to score less than 7 points. They go out and get a touchdown and 22 points. So lost by a lot. It was a lot closer than it looks in the final score, though, I do believe.
At least you knew early in that game. I think that touchdown was early, right? It was
Yeah.
a pick six.
Yeah, pick six. Matt Stafford's leading the league in pick sixes over the last couple of years. Should have known.
But yeah, I mean, who's gonna stop Fufu Cuddly Pips? I don't know. He had pretty much everybody went off this week, besides Terry McLaurin, and who cares? I mean, Stephon Diggs didn't, but he doesn't need him when he has all these pieces. Gerald Everett turns out to be a pretty good tight end as a backup to Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
So I know you're hurting this week with the lack of running backs. We'll get more into that later. Then we had a less close matchup. We had some two bottom of the barrel teams, in my view, because Katie's point scored is so low, but not this week. She won about 120 to 89. Pat Mahomes is working out for her. Austin Eckler finally turned things around. T. Higgins continues to outperform his draft position. And Aaron Jones is a good bench player to have. Flex player is what I mean. And she survived the TJ Hawkinson blow up, 40 points. Holy cow.
Yeah. TJ Hawkinson, number one fancy player the whole league last week. And unfortunately, it was the only player that did well for John last week.
Yeah, really. My goodness. The Marcus Mariota is your starting quarterback. I'm pretty sure that every other option would be better than Marcus Mariota.
I'm not super hating on Marcus Mariota. The first 2 weeks, I think he was a top 5 quarterback, and obviously they've been doing a lot less with him in design runs. But yeah, we'll see if John can put some of these newbies back in his lineup. See if Amon-Ra St. Brown's healthy this week against the Patriots.
Yeah, I think Katie's problem going forward is just no one on her bench. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins in a few weeks, I guess. Tua's there, but this bench is pretty empty. Bye weeks are going to kill her team, which is, I think, is why she's projected so low.
Yeah.
Now this was the upset of the week, I would have to say.
Yeah, I mean, Carson Jelinek against Carla Jelinek, little sibling rivalry going on here. And based on history, we thought that Kyler would definitely get the win here. Is projected to get a win, but Carson's team definitely went off. He had Jared Goff in the 48-45 scoregami game between the Seahawks and the Detroit Lions. And he had a bunch of other players go off. Deebo Samuel making Jalen Ramsey his son. DK Metcalf had 149 yards. He's looking pretty good this week. And according to Kyler's team here, who did have a bunch of decent weeks, Josh Jacobs' career week, Justin Jefferson in London had a pretty good time. But overall, Kyler seems hurting a little bit, especially with Javonte Williams going out. We'll see how that affects him throughout the rest of the next couple weeks here.
I forgot that he was the Javonte Williams manager, and that is going to probably send him down a few pegs. I mean, looking on his bench here, not a lot of other running back options. I mean, he does have James Robinson in his flex. I think that'll pan out better than it did this week. But yeah, that might be the kind of the change in his relative dominance here. And now, why is Kenny Galladay on anyone's bench? Has he scored a point this year?
He has scored at least a point. I think he has at least a catch, but he does have less receiving touchdowns since he got to New York than Zach Wilson does.
But it is incredible that Carson won here with Rashad Penny's dominant 31-point week on his bench. That would have been like a 20 more points for him.
Yeah, he could have gotten 160. That would definitely been his highest score ever.
Now, this last matchup, we had Matt versus Ducky, and this was actually a very good one. We thought this might be a trashy blowout, but no way. Ducky's team finally comes into form with an above-average week. Miles Sanders, big for him. CeeDee Lamb actually looking like he might work out with Cooper Rush. Zach Ertz continues to perform. Chris Olave, a consistent performer. And Matt just slightly out-edged him. That one has to hurt for that 0-4 team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Matt's team wasn't going off, and Ducky was going back and forth on which receiver to put in, Jerry Jeudy, Jahan Dotson, or the number 6 Devontae Smith in Philly. Unfortunately, if he did make the other decision, he would have came out with the win here.
He would have, but there's no way you're playing Jerry Jeudy or Dotson over Devonta Smith.
Devontae Smith was number 1 last week. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, you can't blame him for that. Just tough. And I see that he has Brian Robinson on the IR. That could elevate his team. He's the one coming back from the gunshot injury, presumably this week.
Yeah, absolutely possible. He plays this week.
All right, but that's our weekly recap. And what's on the docket next, Nick?
Yeah. So next we have just some news in the league here. The great Tampa Bay Buccaneer Cole Beasley decided to retire after 2 games. I think it might have something to do with Julio Jones and Mike Evans and everyone getting back into the fold there, but I don't know all the inside politics there. Big news outside of the NFL in the boxing world. Former running back Le'Veon Bell is set to face Uriah Hall in a boxing match at the end of this month. That's going to be a lot of fun. They're on the Jake Paul card. But going on actually right now is the Philip Lindsay revenge game, Colts Broncos, Thursday Night Football. It's a barn burner right now, which goes along with the Jonathan Taylor being out this game and Javonte Williams tearing his ACL and MCL. He's going to be out for the whole season, maybe even part of the beginning of next season. You really got to track that and see what's going on there. But Kenny Pickett making his first career start for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be a pretty fun game, pretty tough game, 14.5-point underdogs against the Buffalo Bills. But the other major injury news is Tua Tagovailoa out with a concussion. But basically, because of how the Dolphins have been treating this, he would have had to come out no matter what, just based on the public perception here. Mm-hmm. And there is another game in London this week, 9:30 a.m., Giants against Packers. Packers' first time ever playing outside the United States, and the first time that 2 games in London both had a winning record at the time they played in London. Fun fact.
Very interesting. Yeah, that Kenny Pickett game, I know we were both watching that just kind of from a distance, and I think he had 3 incompletions. All 3 were picks, including like his second pass of the game. A rough start, but we'll see if Kenny Pickett can turn it around. And now we have our look into the next week. Here we go. All right, before we welcome our guest Kenny onto the show, we just have a very quick message from today's sponsor. That's right, League. We have a sponsor this week, and thank you for sponsoring our show.
Are you tired of boring snacks? The same old nuts or ruts? Too much of a fuss to make muss? Give meat snacks a try. Meat snacks are a new delicious food brought to you by the geniuses behind Aloe Vera Margarita and Road Pasta. They are made from 100% food with plenty of added sugar. Kids love them, adults love them, everyone except the Dutch love them, but the Dutch can get rid. No, seriously, fuck the Dutch. If you want a new food you can wank, yank, or spank, get meat snacks, and justice for Hank.
All right, thank you very much to Meat Snacks. We very much appreciate your sponsorship, even though we may not share your views on the Dutch. And now, All right. We have our guest on the show today, Kenny. How you doing, Kenny?
Oh, I'm doing great, you guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We're going to be talking to you first about well, actually, let's jump into the trade, Nick. That's on the top of my mind. And Kenny, we saw that you made a very interesting trade this week.
Yeah, I did. So is it the best trade? Maybe not. I mean, I think of a relatively inconsequential trade. Looking at my roster, I feel reasonable about my running back room. I did not feel as reasonable about my wide receivers. To be honest, Kareem Hunt was going to sit on my bench the whole season. Looking at my running back room, outside of some freak situations, and so I was willing to. I was asking around a little bit, trying to poke around, see what I could do. And like you guys have said, no one likes to make trades in this league. I'm trying to help bring the trade idea in. We can do trades.
We certainly appreciate that. This is the first trade this season, and usually it's just 2 or 3 every year. I would say I do prefer the Katie side. I don't know about you, Nick, but if Nick Chubb goes out, that Kareem Hunt's going to look very, very sorry on Katie's team.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's pretty inconsequential as well. We were looking at your team a little bit earlier, and you do have a bunch of good running backs, which is something I'm lacking at the moment. But Chase Claypool could, ball out whenever he wants.
I felt a little better about the trade prior to this past week when they put in Kenny Pickett, because once they put in Pickett, it seems that my hope is that maybe he has more repertoire with some of the younger guys, some guys that are not your primary starters, whereas Chase Claypool's probably more worked out with like Mitch Trubisky. So I'm not feeling as good about it now, but at the time I was like, you know what, I'm willing to try something a little different, and I didn't think it was going to be of huge consequence. We're talking about mostly bench players.
True enough. And things always can take a wild turn if Kenny Pickett also falls in love or something.
That's true. There's some interesting things to watch for that, but we'll see if it bites me later.
Now, here, let's take a look at the matchups for this week. We're each going to have a matchup of the week to talk about. But first, Kenny, we want to dig into your matchup. You'll be playing Nick Adams this week. Nick already has a few points, which actually puts him a little bit above you. But why don't you tell us why you're going to end up coming out on top?
I mean, I just think that I just got good players. They're just going to ball out, and it's going to be great. That's easy. Mark Andrews, I think, is really trying to compete for top tight end in the league. And I think he has good potential in there to do that. Mike Williams is always my feast or famine. You just play him and you pray. And, some days it's just going to work out. And I just have good feelings sometimes that with Mike Williams, it works out. And I'm hoping Adam Thielen has a pretty good bounce back week. He sometimes he's very much the same way. A lot of my team is built on we have a lot of potential, and we can have a lot of good scores, or we're going to pull my first week and I'm going to score 60 points and be sad. But I'm willing to roll those dice.
Well, yeah, you got to be feeling it, especially this middle of the season so far. Your team is a bit old, I should say. Devin Singletary being the youngest one on it, but other than that, looks like you're pretty set for right now.
I'm vibing right now. We're doing good and hopeful for the future.
Yeah, I will say that. I mean, obviously Jamal Williams is the right guy to have on your bench, but you're going to miss him in a few weeks. Just taking a look at your bench here, and I mean Zeke may make it into your starting lineup this week. I don't know, maybe not.
I'm keeping an eye on it, but boy, is he's giving me some trouble this year. So I was a lot more hopeful for him, but it hasn't quite panned out the way I was hoping to. Derrick Henry, though, has panned out more or less the way I wanted to in the last week or so. He's coming back to his normal form, and that's feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, as you may have noticed, it did start snowing in Vermont, and so I think he's all good to go. Now, one thing that hopefully for you, Nick Adams is not a watcher of the show because he currently has Keenan Allen on the bench, and I will say that if he switches him out for Elijah Moore, you're going to be a little more trouble.
Yeah, but I had Nick as a roommate in college for a year. I don't have a lot of hopes on him figuring things out like that.
I think after what we've seen this year, I think that's pretty fair.
That was my entire experience with him as my roommate, was just he doesn't always pay the most attention, and that will, I hope, will work to my favor.
Well, we'll have to see. We're also maybe playing Candyland, me and him, one day this weekend.
I'm hopeful that you guys are. I think that's a fantastic way for a tiebreaker, because I mean, it's as good as anything else, and it's more entertaining than rock, paper, scissors, as far as I'm concerned. So
Agreed, and we got to get some Grandma Nut in this league.
I'm here for Grandma Nut. That's the best part of Candyland.
Now, for my matchup of the week, I have to pick the matchup between me and Nick. We previewed earlier. I am projected to win. My projection is falling though, because looks like so far this has been a very boring game that we're not watching between Denver and Indianapolis. Cortland Sutton has 2 points. It's 6-0, almost half. I mean, Nick, Jalen Hurts has been hot. He had a little of a down week. He's coming back this week against Arizona, who has no defense. Brees Hall. This might be a good time to preview also that our bet this week is Brees Hall versus Dameon Pierce, because last week you lost the bet. Jamal Williams did beat who was it again? Khalil Herbert, and you're 0-3 in the contest. This week you went with Dameon Pierce. I'm going with Brees Hall. Chris Godwin's back in my lineup. I don't know if you noticed. He's been on IR this whole year, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Godwin's back in the game. He played a little bit last week, and I'm feeling pretty good about the bet. Dameon Fierce against Brees Lightning. They both have two of the coolest rookie running back nicknames, but I think the Texans are going to be leaning on him a little bit more than the Jets, going up against the mighty Dolphins.
I agree, but I think I like the way that Brees Hall's usage is trending, and so I'm pretty comfortable with my pick as well. Obviously, the big news for you is that Jonathan Taylor not playing this week, 0 points there, and that's
It is going to hurt. We'll see if I put Sexy Rexy into the ball game or not here.
Yeah, considering that I think he's had maybe 2 points last week, that's obviously a desperation play. Who are you picking here, Kenny?
Ooh. That's a tough one. I think I'm gonna be on Nate's side, mostly because sorry, Snickers, you really haven't been looking that good on these bets this year. This hasn't been looking good for you. I feel like I got to bet on the winning horse at the moment, but I mean, also just I don't know. I feel like the Jaguars are starting to figure some things out. So betting on the Texans running back, that might be a little rough.
It's true. We'll see how it goes.
I would say that ESPN probably takes your side. I don't see his projection up here. Brees Hall is 11-5, so if he comes up, we'll take a look. Now, who's your matchup of the week, Nick?
My match of the week is the married couple, Matt versus Katie Berluti. Here, obviously, Matt's scoring a couple of points already, and is projected to win by a decent amount, but it's always fun when these two go up against each other. Katie's come out on top a couple times. Matt usually wins because Katie hasn't been as competitive in recent years. But I do like her team a lot. Obviously, her running back, so she has Aaron Jones as her flex, which is supposed to be her third best running back. Obviously, I think he's the number one on her team. And she has Pat Mahomes, never going to give him up. But yeah, if I had to pick between these two, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Matt Berluti, I think is probably going to win this week here.
Yeah, I'm with you, Nick. I mean, he's projected at 128 points, and that's when the game barely started. The Broncos defense is looking good. I mean, I do think that we were talking about earlier, Katie's bench is very, very thin. And so I think that even if she can pull it together this week, long term, I'm not too optimistic about her prospects this year. Who are you picking here, Kenny?
As much as I also like to bet on the winning horse, there is something to be said for an underdog story. I'd like to see Amari Cooper kind of ball out a little bit this week. I'll go for Katie on this one. I'd feel pretty good about that, and it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I feel good there too. Vegas hasn't looked that great this year.
I'm sure Katie appreciates your support. Now let's take a look at the waivers this week. The waivers broke my heart a little bit. You've been pretty active in the waivers, Kenny, from what I've seen. And you had some, I think, some good pickups this week. Tell me what you were, or I guess mainly just the one, but tell me what your process was here.
Really. So actually, with both of these, I didn't know how it was going to pan out on either of them. So actually, Corey Davis was the number one choice, and they were both planning to drop Greg Dortch. So both of them are really kind of the same. I knew only one was going to work either way at best. And like I said, I felt pretty good about my running back room. Tyler Allgeier, I felt, would be a good addition to that as like a backup option, but I'm always trying to strengthen up my wide receivers. I feel like that's my weakness right now. So that's really kind of what I was after, and I felt, you know what, I'm willing to give a roll of the dice on Corey Davis, see how the next couple weeks, develop and go from there.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a lot more points for you than your trade pickup might be. Now, Matt went hard for Tyler Algier this week. He did preview this. I think might try to scare away some people, but he ended up doubling Kyler's bid at 12. I am filled with regrets taking Mike Boone at $17 because I did not know at the time that Latavius Murray had been added to the roster. Didn't do my research. Makes it a much worse situation. However, Latavius Murray was not active today, so that gives me a shred of hope. We'll see how things pan out today. They're playing right now. There's me and you were fighting over the Jaguars this week. I think that was a pretty mean pickup for the next couple weeks here.
Yeah, the Jaguars defense obviously getting better and better. Looked good against the Chargers, looked all right against the Eagles. And I see you picked up the little draft Christian Watson too.
Yeah, $5 is probably too much. I just wanted to see if maybe fall into Aaron Rodgers' favor. He does tend to have strong allegiances, and right now it's not his way, but he was injured, so we'll see. Now just to keep things moving, let's talk about the real NFL here. My game that I'm watching this week is the Bengals and the Ravens, division matchup here that with two offenses that are rolling at this point. I like watching Joe Burrow. I like watching Lamar Jackson. It could be a high-scoring one.
Yeah, Sunday Night Football should be fun.
That's right. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, this week I'm picking the London matchup, the Giants against the Packers. Like I was saying earlier, first matchup ever with two teams with winning records. First time the Green Bay Packers have ever played outside the United States. They're the last team to do so. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Aaron Rodgers is not getting in until Friday, so he's not gonna be able to see too much. He wants to do some more exploring, but he'll find a way. I'm sure he gets around enough. But I do have to pick the home team, the Green Bay Packers, though, in the game.
Yeah, what about you, Kenny?
So I actually unfortunately won't be watching any NFL this weekend. Well, fortunately, I am actually getting married on Saturday.
Oh my goodness, congratulations.
This weekend is my wedding, so unfortunately I will not be watching any games, but in the follow-up, as I try to get some recaps, I will be definitely looking towards the Bills and the Steelers. Really trying to see if Kenny Pickett keeps throwing picks or if he can kind of right the ship a little bit. I think there's a lot of hype for him in Pittsburgh, and I'm a little interested to see because a similar name, George Pickens, sitting on my bench to see if they develop some chemistry and see where that could lead for me for the season, because certainly always need some assistance in the wide receiver room.
Absolutely. Now, Kenny, you seem to have buried the league here, but obviously congratulations on your wedding, and I hope that is wonderful.
Yes, it should be a good time. Just you can probably see some of the clutter in the background. That's me getting things ready to throw in the car tomorrow morning.
Yeah, where are you doing this thing?
Up at Penn State.
Ooh.
Oh, very nice.
Not as cool as Matt's, Denver, Colorado, or Rocky Mountains in Colorado, but it's still pretty good.
No, yeah, that sounds like it'll be a great time. Look forward to hearing more about it. But thank you so much for joining the show on your wedding eve.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, congratulations. See you soon.
All right. Yes, very good to have Kenny on the show. Now we just have one more segment before we let you all go this evening. We have my wife, Caitlin, again for her hot takes. She's been all wrapped up in some football drama, and she'd love to tell you all about it. And so here we go with the hot takes. Welcome to the show. What have you been paying attention to this week, Caitlin, in football?
So Tom and Giselle hired divorce lawyers very recently, it sounds like.
That's the word on the street. What do you know about it?
Some people are saying it has to do with Tom's decision to unretire from football. Others say that that's not the case. But regardless of what is going on, what do you think? Do you think Tom should spend more time with his family? Not doing as dangerous of a job?
I think that Tom has 60, 70 more years to do that.
60, 70 more years. Nick?
The man's only 45.
Tommy's a healthy guy. He's gonna live for a long time. But yeah, I do definitely see Giselle's side in this whole thing. But I don't know if she's ever gonna find a man as beautiful as that to remarry. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I don't think he'll find a woman as beautiful as her.
It seems like you're taking Giselle's side, just like you took with the Travis Kelce debacle.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but Team Wag all the way. Even though in everywhere apparently except the US, Tom is known as Giselle's husband.
Yeah, especially in Brazil.
A little bit in Europe too. I remember from some German friends always talk, oh, this is the guy married to Giselle. And they thought that Garoppolo was hotter, which I think is pretty universally acknowledged at this point.
Well, Garoppolo is much younger.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and does Garoppolo even have an Uggs contract?
But yeah, I mean, Giselle took like a step back from her career to help out with the family. And Tom wouldn't retire completely. He'd do like announcering or whatever. But I think he could take a little bit of a step back too, to,
Well,
and she was the breadwinner anyway, and she took a step back, so why can't he?
I think his glory days are almost over. Let him live it up. But that's all we got time for today on Caitlin's Hot Takes. Thanks for joining us, Caitlin. And
Thanks for that word announcering. That was fun.
Yeah. And so thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll be back with you next week after the week 5 recaps. I hope that you all enjoy some football or enjoy Kenny's wedding, whatever the case may be. And catch you next week.
Yeah. Catch you later.